Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday. Yes. So, Fallout New Vegas, that's not a Linux game. What are you doing? Well, this isn't the first time I've done a non-Linux game. It isn't. And this one, well, excuse me while I clear my throat. This one has a lot of baggage for me. Fallout 2 is my all-time favorite game. No questions asked, no quarter given. And it's, hello Arthurian. Oh, there will be plenty of fire, don't you worry. Right, let's continue the game. This is a brand new save I started, just because it's, easier to show things in a new save. Okay, so Fallout New Vegas. I love Fallout 2, and Bethesda got a hold of the Fallout IP, and they did something with it. They made it 3D. Yes. A lot of people were... well, they weren't sure what to think. They didn't know... is this going to be just the same Fallout, but on a 3D world? Is this going to be different? Well, Fallout 3 actually turned out to be a hell of a lot more like Oblivion, which is not a bad thing, if we're being honest. It isn't. Right.
Hello? Can you help me?
What's wrong?
My girl is trapped by geckos on the ridge, and I can't get to her. Please, she's going to die. Go up the path, past the broken radio tower, and go to the right. They're at the top of the trail.
I'll see what I can do. So, Fallout 3 came out, and, well, there was a lot of discontent. People weren't happy, people were just saying, oh, this is Oblivion with, yeah, no, we're travel onward. We're done with the tutorial. It's not the Fallout they wanted. It's not the Fallout they so craved. It was something different. People who were just looking, hey, check it out. It's the Elder Scrolls Fallout. Well, they loved it, and a lot of people loved it. It was actually their introduction to the Fallout series. But then, that was in 2008 that Fallout 3 came out. Then in 2010, Fallout New Vegas came out. And the engine is the same, the gameplay is very much the same. Ah yes, the writing. I'll get to that in a moment there, Rohit. Okay, hello, they broke my arm. Come on. Okay. Okay, so in 2010, Obsidian released Fallout New Vegas. Built on the same engine, same basic premise, plays very similarly. It's... a lot of people said that it was, it's mostly the people who were involved with Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, so it's going to be better. It's so much better, right? Well, it was buggy, because if there's one thing that Obsidian is known for, is for releasing buggy versions of their games. Let's have a look at previous examples, like, let's see. Knights of the Old Republic 2. A very good story, very buggy game. Neverwinter Nights 2. I honestly couldn't tell you about the story because the game was so buggy that I couldn't play it properly. It was not... they didn't have a good track record, to say the least. So yes, I was worried when I heard that, oh yeah, Obsidian is the one developing Fallout New Vegas. Like, damn it! I'm never going to get my chance of actually playing Fallout 2 in full 3D, or a new story told by the exact same people. Well, buggy as it was, they eventually fixed it. They did. It's the game right now is mostly playable. It will crash. It will drop frames here and there. It's actually kind of annoying how often it does it. It's it has issues, but it's certainly playable. It's much more playable than it was on release, and honestly, that's not when people release games and then they actively support it and maintain that support. That's good. And that was a trap. I did not see the bear trap. Yeah, super stamp pack.
Sorry I tricked you.
Oh.
But thanks for clearing out the geckos.
It was going to kill me. Oh, hello, Victor.
You need to be careful. Heck, I can smell trouble a mile away.
Oh, you came to help me. How nice.
I like you, friend. Have I mentioned that? See you around, buckaroo.
Buckaroo. Alright. So, after Fallout New Vegas problems were mostly resolved, a certain sentiment started to show up on the interwebs. Discontent with Fallout 3, and people were looking at Fallout New Vegas and going, oh, look at that. It's a better game. Maybe. It's, the story is much better, the writing is so much more cohesive, the random flickers on the video. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the OBS window, yeah, there's flickering. Dang it! Oh well, couldn't be perfect, could it? God damn it. Can't have a smooth stream ever, apparently. That's probably caused by one of the issues with the game engine. That is, Gamebryo. Gamebryo itself is, it's buggy. Very, very buggy. And I'm currently over-encumbered. Let's see, 96, I need to drop 6 pounds of stuff. Let's drop this cleaver, this baseball bat. The shovel I would like to keep, the single shotgun can go. There. That's good. And this weapon has unlimited ammo, so, yeah. But yeah, people started to say that, oh yeah, the writing in Fallout New Vegas is so much tighter, and Fallout 3 in comparison, it feels bland, it feels completely uninteresting. The quests, there's nothing to the quests, you just go in, shoot everything up, and that's it, you're done. Well, it isn't. And I'm glad I'm not the only one who felt this way, and there's actually someone on YouTube, I believe his channel name is Many a True Nerd, who made a video as to why Fallout 3 isn't so bad, and he does, it's like a 2-hour-long video where he actively compares Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas, and I agree with a lot of what he has to say. It's, he brings out a bunch of really good points, like, the several different ways you can resolve many of the quests in Fallout 3. You have, let's see, the one where you go into the VR simulator, Tranquility Lane. You go in there, and if you're not paying attention, the only thing you will know to do is follow what Betty tells you. But if you're careful and you look around and you explore and keep that exploration bit in mind, there's actually another way that you can peacefully solve that mission. You just have to find the code to unlock the override terminal, the admin terminal, and disable the simulation and free the people who are entrapped in there. And by freeing them, well, it means they will die. They will finally die because, well, Betty is keeping them prisoner and killing them over and over again. And beyond that, there's so many quests in Fallout 3 that have multiple different ways that you can solve them, which, compared to Fallout New Vegas, where the writing is supposedly much better, quests are often solved by one way. Or two at the most. You either go in, use your combat skills, or you maybe have a conversation or skill check that's high enough to get the dialogue option to solve that quest in the non-combat way. That's it. Those are usually the only two options you get. And yes, the skill checks in Fallout New Vegas are superior. I will say that. It's, let's see. You actually have proper skill checks, not just speech checks. In Fallout 3, everything was a speech check. You want to try and convince someone, it's a speech check. You want to try to convince a completely different person with completely different motivations. You want to try to convince a robot. It was just a speech check. In Fallout New Vegas, there is that advantage. If you're good at bartering, then you can try to use your skills as a experienced tradesman to convince another tradesman to give you better prices, or to give you something for free, or to tell them that maybe walking away is the most profitable solution. Yeah, there are a lot more skill checks in the conversation options in Fallout New Vegas, but that's just one thing. The character animation, the walking animation that you're seeing right now, and the running animation, these are not the regular animations that Fallout New Vegas comes with. That was another one of my gripes with this particular instance. It was the default animations for Fallout New Vegas were horrible. Characters didn't run like they were running with a purpose. They ran like they were power walking, like they were... It's so very annoying. It was, the animation was really, really bad, and it didn't fit in with the theme at all. And while we're on the theme, Fallout has always been a game where it's an RPG for all intents and purposes. It's not the traditional fantasy setting, it's the post-apocalyptia. But it is an RPG. It has dungeons, it has conversations, and the dungeons, well, since we're coming into, what is that, Nipton? Prim? I can't remember the name. Prim. That's Prim. Prim is where the game first introduces you to dungeons. It's... Oh yes, Nipton is the one that burns, correct. That introduces you to the concept of dungeons. See, that right there is the Bison Steve Hotel. It's a pretty big hotel with maybe 2 or 3 floors that you can explore, and a bunch of guys, mostly concentrated on the ground floor, which you promptly dispatch without giving it so much as a second thought. Let's see if we can kill this gecko. Yes. And that's... I mean, that's the thing. Fallout 3, when it comes to dungeons, let's say, like the quest that you need to get the satellite array for the, to fix, Galaxy News radio station. That quest takes you through the Museum of Technology in a perfectly laid out dungeon. It's what Bethesda knows how to do, and as much as I currently, at this precise moment, do not like Bethesda because they are nothing but hostile towards Linux. But that's what they know how to do. They make really good exploration-based RPGs. Yes, the writing, the dialogue itself, it may be a bit crappier. It's not as refined as it otherwise could be, but it's not. What an RPG is more than just the conversations. It's the gameplay. If I wanted good writing, I'd go read a book. But here I am playing a video game. So why isn't the gameplay matching up to what I expected? Fallout 3 did great dungeons. The Museum of Technology is just one. There are hundreds of locations in that game, and the ones that are meant to be explored like you would a dungeon, they are stupidly well done. In New Vegas, you don't have that. It's like the example of the Bison Steve Hotel right there. It's just a flat floor with some enemies scattered about, and that's it. You're done.
Hey, where the hell do you think you're going? Prim is off limits.
Your face is off limits. What's going on in Prim?
Convicts from the prison up the road have taken over the town. Everyone inside is either dead or in hiding.
Ah,
More, there are
the
two
vaults.
tribal raiders causing trouble in this area as well.
The vaults
You'd be safer heading back up to Good Spring.
are possibly one of the very few saving graces for Fallout New Vegas, for me personally. All of the vaults in Fallout New Vegas have at least one very interesting, admittedly loosely connecting thread to the rest of the Fallout universe, but it is very... and the stories are very, very interesting. But that's the thing. You have, what, 10, maybe less than that, vaults in Fallout New Vegas?
It's your act.
While in Fallout 3, of those 120-something locations that it has, most of them are interesting dungeons with nooks and crannies that reward exploration. In Fallout New Vegas, you don't get anything from exploring. In fact, it's one of the points that many a true nerd makes in the video. The game doesn't really expect you to explore. It takes you on a relatively linear thread through the map, and you basically start here in Good Springs, and you go down here, then you go back up, then you go to New Vegas, which is right around here. And from there, you are taken, depending on which faction you decide to... hey, Frostclaw. Which faction you decide to help, it'll take you to different places, some of which overlap, like Nelson and a few others. While in Fallout 3, the map is so big, everything is so sparse, there's entire stretches of nothing. But nothing, or negative space as you would call it in game design, is very good at doing one thing: setting the pace. And in Fallout New Vegas, the pace is, hurry up, you gotta go get the guy who shot you in the head. I mean, say what you will about that quest, but yeah, okay. That's a motive. You're going to take payback, or you're going to get the platinum chip back. Whatever the case. In Fallout 3, the map that you explore, if you were just going to follow the main quest, it would take you to like a third of the map, if that. And everything else, you're supposed to just go out and explore. You're supposed to, oh, there's a random thing, there's like a blip on the map. I should investigate and see what that is. And more often than not, you get really awesome rewards, like a cool weapon, or armor, or a lot of ammo. And, like, the scarcity of not just ammo and healing items and armor and whatnot, is much more pronounced in Fallout 3 than it is in New Vegas. They both take place in and around the same time, chronologically speaking, in the Fallout universe, but Fallout 3 actually feels like a post-apocalyptic game. Fallout New Vegas, with the NCR basically taking over the Mojave and the Legion coming to try and get control of Hoover Dam, and Mr. House, who lives in New Vegas and wants to keep it isolated from the rest of the world, or at least not completely isolated, but at least keep it under control as much as possible. Those are established factions. Those are, especially the NCR, they're established civilizations. It's not a post-apocalypse. Really, the saving graces of Fallout New Vegas, for me, were two very specific bits of DLC. Well, three. Lonesome Road was also very, very good, but I'll cover Lonesome Road in a moment.
The Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
Funny. The very faint background music you can hear in the back, that's actually Mark Morgan. That's one of the original Fallout soundtracks. So, good job on Obsidian for getting the rights to actually use those tracks in New Vegas. That was kind of awesome to hear. The DLCs. Honest Hearts and Dead Money. Those are the best bits of DLC that I've seen in Fallout 3, in Fallout New Vegas, Oblivion. There's just nothing that compares to those. But those stories that those bits of DLC tell, they are completely detached from the main game. Case in point, when you go to the Zion National Park in Honest Hearts, the Caravan Master says that you can only take 50 pounds of equipment with you. So basically you're going to have to leave everything but the bare essentials behind. When you start Dead Money, your equipment is taken away from you and you're given just very simple base clothing and a holo rifle, which happens to be one of the most powerful weapons in the game. And the way that they introduce, the way that those DLCs are introduced like that, it makes it very clear that they are completely detached from the game itself. They could be entire games on their own accord, very short ones admittedly, but they would work. Yeah, but that's the thing, they work completely independently from Fallout New Vegas. And that, to me, says that the developers were painfully aware of the game that they had created, and that game had, well, it had no place with the, with those bits of DLC, because those bits of DLC are really interesting. The one connecting thread between Dead Money and, the base game is Father Elijah. He's looking for the secrets of the Sierra Madre Casino, which was supposed to open on the very day that the bombs fell. And, well, the bombs fell, so it never really opened. And the whole place has got a great atmosphere. That's another one. See, in Fallout 3, when you walk, again, I'm going to bring the Museum of Technology because that's just good level design at work right there. When you go in, there's this fog, there's this mist, there's the dust falling from the ceiling that's about to cave in on itself. There's super mutants just lumbering the hall, but outside of that, everything is strangely quiet. It was perhaps one of the best experiences when it comes to atmosphere, conveying narrative, or a little bit of plot even, through nothing but level design. It was environmental storytelling at its best. And in New Vegas, you don't get that. You get that in some of the vaults. But again, it's just a teeny tiny bit of story and a teeny tiny bit of Fallout lore in those vaults compared to a massive map that you are given to explore in the game. And that is just disappointing. Because Fallout 3, made by Bethesda, people who had never worked on the Fallout series, ever. They made a better Fallout RPG, in my opinion, than Obsidian did. And Obsidian were the ones who... were the people at Black Isle. They were the ones who, for all intents and purposes, developed Fallout into what it was. They were the ones who turned the teeny tiny CRPG into a cult hit. I'm going to die. Oh, just barely. Alright, let's map these stim packs. Okay. I need to put some skill points into energy weapons. Oh yes, and graphics. No, Fallout 4 I can't say because I haven't played it yet. And well, with Bethesda's current complete disregard for Linux as a platform, I'm probably not going to play it in the foreseeable future. Because I sure as heck don't want to give him money. But yeah. Fallout 3 for... Oh look, the sheriff and his wife are dead. And I'm going to take the sheriff's clothes. Like, take this shack, for example. This is like prime example of what you would get in a random Fallout New Vegas encounter. You walk in, there's barely anything, there's some clothes on the floor, a couple of dead bodies. Oh, the town has been overrun by convicts. Alright. Stands to reason they killed the sheriff. That's it. That's the only storytelling you get. And yet, in Fallout 3, there's just so... everywhere you look, there's a teeny tiny little bit of, a story. Like, the story of what happened to that specific place. The story of what happened to the people who lived in that specific place. It's really good, actually. It's... Say what you will about Bethesda, and I have said a lot, but they really do know how to make a game. How to make an interesting game, not just a like a field or a desert, in this case, where you roam around, you shoot some stuff, you do some things, and that's it. That's all she wrote, as Doc Mitchell puts it. That's just really, really disappointing, because Fallout 2, made by, again, basically the same people, Chris Avellone, Fergus Urquhart, so on and so forth, they created my all-time favorite game. And then when given the tools to say, look, we already made a Fallout game using this engine, now you get the chance to do it. They could have made the absolute best frickin' game in history, in my opinion. And they squandered it. The DLCs were good. The DLCs... Look, if I can get to... Let's see, Abandoned Brotherhood, Steel Bunker. Yeah, it's still a bit of a ways off. Oh, the Kenyan wreckage is right there. Oh, I haven't mentioned... I haven't mentioned Rick. I mentioned the name earlier. The DLC... last bit of DLC. What's it called? Someone help me. Where you actually go and confront Ulysses. Ulysses was... his story is like... he was a courier, much like our main character in Fallout New Vegas. And before I talk about the DLC, that's another thing, another gripe I have with Fallout New Vegas versus Fallout 3. In Fallout 3, you basically get to play your own character from the moment you are born, quite literally, to throughout the whole game. Here, you start off with a cutscene explaining that you were a courier who had a platinum chip which a dude in a checkered suit stole for reasons unknown, and they shoot you in the head. Okay, that's great character introduction. It doesn't really work as an RPG for me, because I like the tabula rasa concept. It's like, yes, you're a blank slate, you literally get to dictate exactly what your character is. And it's not the case with New Vegas. Your character is not a tabula rasa, he's a courier or she's a courier. They have a specific motivation. It's not like everyone just wakes up one day, it's like, ooh, the wasteland seems like a pretty fun place. I'm just going to go around delivering packages from one side to the other. No, 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 no. You have to put yourself at considerable risk to be able to deliver even the simplest package. That gives a character motivation. It gives a character, it's like, okay, this is that kind of person. It's the person who would put themselves in danger to distribute those packages, to make sure that people get their, I don't know, whatever they need to survive. This is one of the other couriers in our little ragtag, because, well, they hired 6 couriers to deliver 6 different items, and only the chip, the platinum chip, was important, which just so happened to be carried by our character. But that's just video game logic at its finest. That I won't argue with. You could criticize it, and please do, but I could get that. That is well within my willing suspension of disbelief. It's like, I'm not actually playing myself. I'm playing a courier, which, okay, that would be perfectly acceptable. There are plenty of games that I've enjoyed where you play a specific character, a character with motivations, a fleshed out story, everything else. But you don't get that here either, because yes, you have that background. He's a courier, he does these things, he got caught, and that's it. So that doesn't really work. It fails on both ends of that particular way of looking at it. In that respect, again, I much prefer, if we're talking about roleplay, I much prefer how Fallout 3 did it. Because, yes, you get to grow, you get to see your character as they grow, you get to see what happens to the vault, you get to make your own opinions about it. There are tons of different ways, even like during the tutorial quests, there are tons of different ways that you can solve everything. When Butch tries to take away your sweet roll, in most other Elder Scrolls games that had that particular question when during character creation, you were usually given 3 options. In Fallout 3, you get, instead of just picking the options from a little pop-up window, you actually get to play those options. You get to either spit on the sweet roll so Butch doesn't want it. You get to... Oh,
I don't know what it was brought you to Prim, youngster, but you might want to rethink your plans. Town's gone to hell.
You can insult Butch to get him to chase you around. You can just give the sweet roll if you want to. There's so many different ways to solve it, and it's just a tutorial quest. It's completely in your hands to decide what you can do with it, and it's a quest that doesn't really matter, if we're being honest. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas, you can betray every faction and every decision. Yes, but why would you? There's no point. Once you pick a faction, you may as well do everything in your power to the betterment of that faction. Why, if you decide to help the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout New Vegas, why then would you help Mr. House or Yes Man or the Legion? Why would you? At that point, you might as well go with the NCR, because that's the only peaceful resolution to the Brotherhood of Steel. Same goes for the remnants, the Enclave remnants. There's really no point to betraying a faction, because the advantages that you get are completely pointless. It's like, okay,
Well, I don't...
that was like the one I can think of in the tutorial. That's the example I gave it. It's like, it's the tutorial, and usually tutorials tend to be a bit more linear, but even then in the tutorial you're given multiple choices to solve each and every individual quest, and that just becomes more so apparent as the game goes on.
Oh.
And that's not something you have in Fallout New Vegas. Okay, take this quest. What's the peaceful resolution to this quest? There isn't. Fallout New Vegas was Beyond the Beef. Which one is Beyond the Beef?
That cowboy robot had us hire 6 couriers. Each was carrying something a little different.
Oh.
Paradise,
Cowboy robot.
kind of stuff.
That was Victor.
Last word I have from the office, it looked like payment had been received for the other 5 jobs. First deadbeat we hired to do the job canceled.
That's Ulysses. Ah, the Divide.
Skins him alive.
Okay. And there's our quest. Ooh, he runs a store. The Cannibal White Glove Society one. Oh, yes! Yes. But why would you go through the trouble of trying to solve it peacefully when you can just kill the dude who introduces you to the cannibalism? You could just kill him, and that particular faction within there will be hostile to you. It's like, oh, I could just take care of that right then and there. But yeah, there are plenty of choices there. Absolutely. Even if the quest resolution is a bit disappointing, because, oh look, you saved the son of what's his face, and now the White Glove Society are just regular casino owners, and they're trying to phase out the hostage quest is also pretty good. Yeah. See, that one is much more linear from what I remember it. It's... you go in and there's a skill check, persuasion check at the end to convince the NCR to honor the deal. It's like, yeah, no, you're going to honor the deal. But it's not a particularly hard persuasion check, and it's basically the only way that I have ever solved that quest, because there's no point in solving it any other way. You can get easily the best result for the quest. sure, you can roleplay and make your own decisions and maybe help the cons fight the NCR. Why would you do that when you can get the best possible outcome? You get bonus reputation with the NCR, you get bonus reputation with the cons, you get to save the two hostages, and you get a pretty decent reward, not just from the NCR, but also from Papa Khan when you go visit him. Why would you do anything else? It's ideal, and there is a counterpart to that in Fallout 3, which I guess is a replicated man. Even though the way that quest starts is just genius in my opinion, because it gives you no quest markers, it gives you no indication of anything. The NPCs just say, oh, you should find an NPC that does this or that likes to do that. And they may be able to tell you more about it. But outside of that particular loose bit of information, that's almost Morrowind level quest right there, you're not given anything. And it isn't until you finally find Pinkerton and he tells you what he did to Harkness, yes, Harkness, that's the name, that you actually get a quest marker. And then, again, there's the perfect solution. What you do is you tell Harkness what he is, and then he asks you to, or you can ask him to deal with the dude from the Commonwealth that came looking for him. And he gives you a pretty sweet plasma rifle when you do it. So what you do then is you go talk to the dude, you tell him, oh yes, Harkness is the escaped android, he will give you the little implant that will make your VATS much better. And as they're walking off, you can just shoot them, go back to Harkness, and say, look, he's taken care of. And you get a reputation boost with Rivet City. It's, again, the best possible outcome of that whole situation, and there's no other way that would even justify you solving that quest in a completely different way. There's just no point. It's so good that why would you ever do anything that's not that? And there is an argument to be made that yes, those quests have their place in video games. You do feel good when you figure that stuff out. And if it is hard to figure out, then yeah, great. That's a very good quest right there. But the ones in New Vegas aren't particularly hard to figure out. It's really not. The skill checks for at least the quests along the line of the beginning of the game, they're pretty basic. Let's see, what can I do to help?
Right now, Beagle is the closest Prim's got to any organized. First thing I'd say.
Okay, save Beagle. And that's going back to the bit about the exploration. While Fallout 3 actively rewards you for exploring, in New Vegas, there's barely any point, because if you're not following a quest marker, you might as well be, because, well, there's not much of any point to do anything else. And here it is. This is the main building as you walk into Prim. This is the main building. It has all of the NPCs slash quest giver, singular, in it. That's it. It's this building and the one across the road. That's the dungeon that you need to quote-unquote solve. Oh yeah, that reminds me of something else, Rohit. But yeah, no, just to finish this thought. It's like you walk into the first major town after Good Springs, and it's 2 buildings. That's it. That's all you have. And they're both pretty bland. I mean, you walked in here, it's a casino. Okay, it has a little car and the display in the middle, but it's basically one big room with all of the NPCs in it. Okay. Alright, and then you go across the way and it's one big building with all the NPCs in it that you need to shoot. Ooh, there's some clever level design there, isn't it? It's 2 buildings, one it's peaceful, the other one you shoot at. Yeah. So, Rohit actually brings up an interesting point and another point of contention for me with Fallout New Vegas. So, Fallout 3 actively rewards exploration. Fallout New Vegas is very clearly trying to herd you down a specific path. Basically, follow the highways. Just follow the highway, you come south from Good Springs, you arrive in Prim, then you get to the Mojave Outpost, then you go to Nipton, then you go up through Novak, then you make your way to New Vegas. But if you try and so much as deviate from that, you get 2 kinds of walls. You get some actual invisible walls that Obsidian just put around the map into places that they didn't want you to go. When the same isn't true in Fallout 3. Yeah, but here's the thing. It's the journey should be the players to decide. That's called agency. Oh yeah, you have 2 more buildings which are empty when you first arrive, Massivoni. Yes. In Fallout 3, the way that everything is sparsely laid out, you don't have any reason to go to those other places. You go there because you have the agency as a player to control your character's actions. You see. And then you can stuff around on the roller coaster. Yeah, it's a roller coaster that you can run on. It's not the first game to do it. Probably won't be the last either. What was the other one? Left 4 Dead 2. That one's actually on Linux. But yeah, it's... And that one was actually exciting. In Fallout 3... you are given the agency to decide where you want to go. In Fallout New Vegas, it's either invisible walls or really stupidly high-level enemies that you can't possibly survive a fight with. So, admittedly, I'd be okay with just like the Cazadores or the Deathclaws or something to keep you out of a specific place. That'd be totally fine by me. That's organic. That feels organic. It's like, okay, so there are powerful creatures there. I'm still weak, so I'm not going to go there. That's my conscious decision as a player. But the invisible walls, quite actively corralling you in a specific direction, that is just infuriating. And yes, I much prefer the way that Fallout 3 was laid out, because there were those powerful enemies, but more likely than not, unless you got really unlucky with the like the random encounters, because that's the way that Fallout 3 does some of its locations. It just picks a random encounter from a list and just spawns something. So unless you got really unlucky and you got the Deathclaw or the giant red scorpion, you weren't going to run into like really stupidly powerful enemies unless you went into a dungeon and you had your ass checked. But again, that was your decision. You got to make that decision. You weren't corralled into going that way. You weren't corralled away from that place. You were just left to your own devices, and you did... well, you did whatever you wanted to. You're the video game person. You're the one who's playing it. You're the one who dictates the agency that your character has. And, well, this is, of course, everything I've said up to this point is the way I see it. I'm sure there are people who much prefer the way that Fallout New Vegas does things. I don't understand that. I really don't. But it is, to me, a video game should be about agency, should be about a player, should be about the mechanics, what you can do with your character. In Fallout New Vegas, you can't do much. All you can do is follow the path that's basically been laid out in front of you, with one deviation or another, yes. But that's it. You just follow just follow the path, follow the road. Alright, come here, convict. Thank you.
Maybe I'm just joking.
Yeah. I will, that is a point that is very hard to dispute when it comes to Fallout 3. The ending was terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible. Not that Fallout New Vegas's ending isn't just as bad. In fact, I'd say worse because, oh look, Caesar is dead. You can kill Caesar the moment you meet him, basically, if you're good enough to survive. But all of a sudden, oh look, there's a new guy, Legate Lanius, which apparently is 3 different people who have worn the same mask and doesn't really have a fleshed out story, and all you've heard of him up to this point are completely contradictory statements, and all of a sudden he's the final boss? What? Yes, not being given a choice to do the March of Death with Liberty Prime in Fallout 3, that was very clearly a shortcoming, but it was a set piece. That it is a video game. It's got video game moments to it, and it is one of the weakest points of that game. But hey, you're given the choice at the end of just killing Colonel August, or actually try to reason with him with a significantly hard enough speech check. With Lanius, you basically have to... Autumn? Yes, Colonel Autumn. With Lanius, you get increasingly more difficult speech checks, and you can only ever do the peaceful route, quote-unquote, after you've already killed a bunch of people over the dam, if you have 100 speech. What the hell? That is about as video gamey as it gets. It's like, oh, so as long as you get 100 in speech, you're gold for the end of the game. What? That's not good. That's not good quest design. So yeah, no. When it comes to the endings, both New Vegas and Fallout 3 fall very, very short of what I'd say is good. But then again, that seems to be a bit of a trend with video games. It's, oh yeah, it's a pretty good video game most of the way through, and then you get to the ending and it's just disappointment. But admittedly, I was much more impressed with the March of Death of Liberty Prime, with its capitalist... Yeah. In Fallout 2, oh yes, Fallout 2 is my all-time favorite game, but Horrigan, you can't really reason with him because he's so strung up on FEV that there's no reason left in him. There is a reason as to why he's like that. But here's the thing. The end of Fallout 2, you can, if you have a high enough science skill, you can reprogram the turrets to help you. If you have a high enough speech, you can You can convince the patrol to help you. If you have a high enough sneak, you can get through the entire oil rig without being detected. I mean, yes, not being able to reason with Horrigan kind of sucks. There should have at least been one option, even if it was very well hidden, even if you had to have like that one specific interaction during the game that would tell you more about him and would let you convince him. But there isn't. But that's the thing, you don't even have to deal with them. You can just walk away. The thing with New Vegas is even the end. Oh, I bumped the microphone, sorry about that. The end being terrible is just something else on top of it. Yeah, Fallout 3 was also buggy and the ending still sucked, but at least with Fallout 3 you got to keep playing after the ending. With New Vegas, all you get to do is you reload a save and yeah, just go back and explore the bits you didn't. Just do the side quests you didn't, and that's it. That's really all there is to it. And I wish, I really wish that Chris Avallone and Fergus Urquhart and the rest of them had made Fallout New Vegas exactly what it should have been, which was the real Fallout 3. And just made the actual Fallout 3 look like, oh, it's got the Fallout name in it, but it might as well be like a completely unrelated game that just happens to take place in the exact same universe. Because they could have done Fallout New Vegas so much better, but they didn't. And that royally pisses me off. Aha! Precisely. But even with DLC, Fallout New Vegas did not do that. In fact, the DLC of Fallout New Vegas is their self-contained stories, outside of the one where you get to go to the Divide and confront Ulysses. What's the name of the frickin' thing? Reunion... I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, the last bit of DLC where you actually get to go to Ulysses, the conversation that you have with him is just... what? Because it's assumed that, yes, you're on board with the whole, oh, I'm a courier, and maybe I came from this place, and I, as someone who likes to keep an open mind and who likes to enjoy games for what they give me, don't really care about the story. Again, if I really wanted a really good story, I would read a book. But the only thing that the Divide had going for it was the visual spectacle. It wasn't environmental storytelling in as much as, oh look, it's a town that got bombed to shit. That's the only story about it. It's it was the spectacle of like seeing buildings warped and toppled and you walking on the walls or on the roof of certain buildings because they were completely upside down, and going through tunnels that were actually like open areas at one point. The visual element to that DLC was great, but it was very much a linear path. Again, minor deviations, but then again, that's like the rest of New Vegas. If it weren't for Honest Hearts and that money, which to me, that money is one of the best bits of DLC ever. completely self-contained story, completely irrelevant to the rest of New Vegas, unless you really want to count Father Elijah as relevant to New Vegas. Oh, he was the one who tried to take over Helios 1, and that's why the Brotherhood is in such a bad state when you run into them. It's completely irrelevant. It would completely work as a self-contained thing, and I really wouldn't be opposed to having an offshoot Fallout game just about the Sierra Madre and what happened to the Sierra Madre after we left, because we know what was in there. We know. Oh yeah. I mean, those gold bars, they're worth so many caps, but they weigh 50 pounds each. Or 5 pounds each, and there's tons of them. It's like, oh, I want to take them all. And you can take them all. This is what most people don't realize. You can take them all. If you have a high enough sneak skill, with the help of a stealth boy or two, you can just sneak very slowly out, go the long way around, and in the bit you need to jump, you just put the gold bars on the rail that you're jumping to. You jump, then you pick them all up, and there you go. That's how I did it. But yeah, it was like, you don't get to well, we all read like the final entry. Oh, hardcore mode. Hardcore mode requires a new video all of its own. Maybe in the future. But yeah, it's you could take them all. Maybe. I mean, knowing Bethesda, yeah, you probably would be able to take them all very, very easily. But yeah, you can actually take them all. You just have to be very patient and very careful. And it works. It's so good, and it's a completely independent story from the rest of New Vegas. It doesn't really matter. You're not allowed to take your items, you're not allowed to take your companions. Everything is self-contained. That's it. And it has great atmosphere, like the atmosphere of the Sierra Madre Casino. And it actually feels like a lot of the most dangerous places of Fallout 2. And Fallout 3. It's you can go and explore everything, but do you really want to? Because everything's irradiated, everything has that killer cloud of fog that doesn't really let you stay in it for too long, unless you have the right companion, or you have the rebreather. The rebreather, of course, lets you breathe in the cloud, but that's actually a very well hidden item. And even though there is a linear thread throughout the whole of the DLC, and throughout that you're actually told to go to the most important places, there are many nooks and crannies and hidden areas that you would never have to go to, but you want to explore. At least I did. I really wanted to explore that DLC. I really wanted to see what the Sierra Madre had. And the rest of Fallout New Vegas, with this huge, huge map, it goes all the way around here, and then up here. It's like so much unused map. It's like, okay, there's an invisible wall that goes basically around here. So this is dead space. This is dead space. This is all dead space. There's the cons. The cons. They're not here. They're here, I think. But yeah, it's so much wasted space. It's actually kind of criminal. You have a big map, make use of it. It's really not that hard. I was just disappointed. And as much as I prefer the way that Fallout 3 works, because it gives me, the player, the decision, just like, okay, I'm gonna go explore that way. And screw everything else, I'm gonna go that way because I want to go that way. You can. The game does not stop you. In fact, it rewards you if you're good enough to go that way and succeed, and Fallout New Vegas doesn't. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go that way. Oh, look, there's a shack with some caps. Ooh, and a sarsaparilla star bottle cap. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. It could have been so much better. But then again, so could have this stream. Thank you all very, very much for indulging me in this very short trip into Fallout New Vegas and my very, very, very long ramblings. It's just, it happens to be a subject that I care very much about. I like the Fallout series. Probably eventually we'll have to play 4, but today is not that day. So, thank you all very much for joining me. I am Pedro Mateos. You can find me at unaccounted4 on Twitter. Thank you, Jill. Goodbye, Arthur. Thank you all very much for joining me. I will see you tomorrow for Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. And, Fallout New Vegas over Fallout 3. Bye! Ha 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 ha. Funny Rohit. But yes, thank you all very, very much for joining me. Bye.